Hello and welcome to episode 6 of Ask a Minecrafter. I'm your host Pixlriffs, and today's question comes from N Jane, who asks, could you do a video on PvE and or PvP tactics? Since the 1.9 update has recently made changes to the way combat in Minecraft works, I thought it was best to focus today's video on 1.9 and give PvE the focus, since I have way more experience with that than PvP. We'll cover a little PvP, but it's probably best to leave that for a later episode or a more qualified teacher. PvE stands for Player versus Environment, or sometimes Player versus Enemy, and is a quick way of describing a gameplay style in which the player simply has to survive. On a multiplayer server, this typically means players work cooperatively, or at least neutrally, and the main obstacles to your survival are hostile mobs, a group of in-game entities who will attempt to attack you if you come within range. The player can retaliate using a variety of tools, items, and even potions, and defend themselves with armor and the newly added shields, or they can choose to employ our first PvP tactic and run away. This seems like an odd one to bring up first, but it will probably end up being the first thing you do. In the early game, when you have very few resources available, it can be challenging to fight mobs. Wooden and stone tools are weak and break easily, armor is hard to obtain until you've got iron, and an iron ingot is necessary to make a shield. Without a shield or armor, you're going to find it especially hard to attack skeletons in particular. They will now run around to prevent you from getting too close and fire at you from a distance. Until you can find some iron close to the surface or start a safe and profitable mining operation, you might want to avoid close encounters. If you aren't a fan of running away, your best option in the early game is probably ranged combat. Bows and arrows can be made using materials you can find on the surface. String will probably be the hardest, but remember spiders are neutral in the daytime until you attack them, so you might be able to sneak up on them unawares and brain them with the stone sword. A bow and a few arrows will keep enemies at range, which could get you out of a tight spot, and if you're feeling brave, you could even return fire on those evil skeletons. Your bow will remain useful throughout the game, especially if you enchant it later to get it additional power, punch to knock enemies back, flame to set them on fire, and infinity, so you'll never run out of arrows. Once you've got access to lingering potions in the late game, you can even create tipped arrows for additional effects. Bows can also be very effective in PvP, but that's going to depend on your aim and the movements of your opponent. Other players will move more quickly and tactically than mobs, and can now guard against arrows with shields, so hitting them is going to be a combination of skill and luck. There are two drawbacks to using a bow, and one is actually the drawback. You'll need to hold down the right mouse button to charge your bow before you can fire, and it won't do as much damage if it isn't drawn all the way. This leads to our second disadvantage: you can't block with a shield while using a bow, which could leave you open to attack. Once you have access to iron, you can make a shield, armor, and more durable tools, making it safer to fight mobs up close. In Minecraft 1.9, we can now see the damage each weapon is capable of doing, and you'll notice axes do a bunch more base damage than swords. Does this make axes the best weapon in the game? Not exactly, because 1.9 also introduced cooldown times, which effectively means you'll have to let your weapon recharge for a second before it can do maximum damage. Swinging any earlier will do a lot less damage, which can be fatal in close range combat, but axes recharge much slower than swords. A sword can get a bunch of full strength swings in, while the axe can't swing as often. Axes also can't be enchanted with extra effects like knockback, fire aspect, and looting, which can give sword users the edge, although if you enchant an axe with sharpness 5, the base damage goes up to 12, which is 6 whole hearts worth of damage, and if you have smite 5, you can kill a zombie pigman in one hit. Both sword and axe users can do devastating damage with critical hits, which require you to jump before you attack and swing while you're falling back down. This is why you'll see a lot of players jumping around when they fight. A hit can also get a knockback bonus if you're sprinting at the target. It used to be possible to sprint jump for a critical hit and a knockback, but in 1.9 you can't do both. It's either one or the other. Swords now also have a unique ability. If you're standing still or crouching, you can swing in a semicircle in front of you, hitting multiple enemies at once. This is very useful if you're surrounded, especially when combined with the knockback enchantment. Once you've found the gear that's right for you, it's time to take on those mobs. Here are a quick few tips for taking on each mob in the game. Zombies are slow and can only attack up close, but each time you hit them there's a chance they'll spawn more zombies, so use well-timed critical hits to finish them in as few swings as possible. Baby zombies are much faster, but they stun easily, so if you see one standing there not moving or attacking, press the advantage. Fight creepers from a distance if you can. If you don't have a bow, run in quick and swing with a melee weapon, then back off as quickly as possible. Even if they don't calm down, you'll take less damage if you're further from the explosion, and you can block with a shield for extra protection. To get up close to a skeleton, raise your shield and walk up to them with the shield's side. Your shield will block their arrows, allowing you to get in close for the kill. Endermen do massive damage, can't be hit by arrows, and now teleport more often during melee combat, so make sure you have good armor if you're fighting them in the open. Alternatively, take advantage of their 3-block height. Build something 2 or 2.5 blocks high and you'll be able to get under it, but they won't. After that, aim for the legs. Witches will heal themselves as you fight and can throw poison potions at you, so try to take them down as fast as possible and make sure you've got somewhere to run if you get poisoned. Silverfish are only found in strongholds and extreme hills, where they generate inside of stone blocks or stone bricks. You'll be able to spot these because they take longer to break than usual, even with an efficiency pickaxe. If you break one by accident and spawn the silverfish, try to kill it in one hit with a critical strike. If you damage a silverfish but don't kill it, it will wake up the others. Guardians can be difficult to take on without the proper equipment. They're much faster in the water than you are. Bring depth strider boots, water breathing and night vision potions, and a decent set of armour. Those laser beams pack a punch, but they can be avoided if you dodge behind a solid block, or even if you run at the Guardian itself. They'll stop attacking, retract their thorns, and try to swim away, which is when you can get a few hits in. Slimes and magma cubes are all about the timing. Attack them when they're on the ground, and dodge when they try to jump on you. Once they've split into their smallest size, they won't be capable of doing much damage at all. Blaze can do melee damage, but they mostly try to fireball you from a distance. If they're just smoking, run in and attack. When they're on fire, that's when they're about to shoot at you. You can even put out their fire by swinging at them before they attack, which should delay them long enough for you to finish them off. Bows are essential for taking on ghasts, as they're almost always out of melee attack range. Bows are also way more effective at repelling ghast fireballs and getting that satisfying return to sender achievement. Wither skeletons should be kept at a distance, as they can inflict the wither effect for extra damage, but like Endermen, they're also 3 blocks tall, so putting a row of blocks at that height should stop them from hitting you. Zombie pigmen won't attack you until you attack them. If you do need to kill them, try to kill them in one hit using a critical hit with a sharpness or smite weapon. One-shotting a zombie pigman will avoid drawing the attention of its friends. Once you reach the end cities, you'll encounter shulkers. You'll be able to do more damage to them when their shells are open, although that's when they'll try to launch projectiles at you. This will cause a levitation effect, so try to get underneath something to stop yourself floating too high, or the fall damage is going to hurt. When fighting the Ender Dragon, make sure you bring feather falling boots. The dragon's swoop attack will throw you into the air and you'll need to fall safely. Plus you'll be climbing a couple of those towers to break the cages surrounding the end crystals. Take out all the crystals first to stop the dragon from healing, then you'll need a good strong bow, a good supply of arrows, and a melee weapon for when the dragon stops on the bedrock portal. It's immune to bow attacks while it stays there. Last but not least, it's arguably easiest to fight the Wither underground, as it won't be able to fly away from your melee attacks. Bring a Smite 5 sword, strength and regen potions for an easy kill. And now it's time to ask you, what are your top tips for taking on mobs in Minecraft? Let us know in the comments or ask a question for a future episode of Ask a Minecrafter. My name has been Pixlriffs, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye for now.